viewers, this is Paladin of Odin, and this is some more Magic the Gathering Online. This is another episode of the Standard Commentary Series, and it looks like we've got Izzet Machinegun versus Bant Aggro. I've been wanting to see this matchup because, theoretically, Izzet Machinegun could do quite well against Bant Aggro, simply because the whole point is, you load up your deck with instants and sorceries, which, since you're running red, you're going to have a lot of burn spells, which will work really well against Bant Aggro because you want their creatures dead. You don't want them to build up an army. And then, you're not really losing any tempo by killing their creatures because you keep getting to ping him with the Thermo Alchemist, and in this situation, Thing in the Ice as well. So, unfortunately, he has a 5/5 Lamholt Butcher, which means that Thing in the Ice can't do his usual blocking, effective blocking, because, a 2-drop 0/4 is actually really good in Standard, because it's really hard to get 4 power early enough to be able to make a creature like that ineffective. But Bant currently has Thalia's Lieutenant, and then the 5/5 Butcher, the other side, Thing in the Ice, Thermo Alchemist. Honestly, I wouldn't say that either side really has an advantage right now. They're pretty well even though Izzet is down to 11 life. I wouldn't say that that's very detrimental yet, because he very well could have many things to play at the end of his opponent's turn, since that's kind of the whole point of Izzet Machinegun. You load your deck with instants and sorceries, so you're most likely going to have things to play. And Thalia, Heretic Cathar. Now, I don't know how much that's really going to affect Izzet Machinegun, mainly because the only real creatures that they run are things like Thermal Alchemist, Thing in the Ice. There might be another creature or two in there, but, them coming into play tapped really isn't that big a deal, because he doesn't have haste, so he can't activate him the turn he comes into play anyway. And Thing in the Ice really doesn't do anything except block until he gets flipped. But like I said, end of turn plays from Izzet. Fiery Impulse to kill off Thalia, Fiery Temper to kill off Thalia's Lieutenant, and more than 2 spells were played, so the Butcher will revert to the Pacifist, and now it's just a 4/4, but it is tapped. The only problem that I foresee here for Izzet is the fact that he's running through his hand quite quickly. The good news is you're running blue. There's obviously a lot of options in blue for you to draw more cards, and then there are also synergistic cards like Fevered Visions. Ooh, Collective Defiance. And then there's Collective Defiance to let him draw more cards. He had 2 lands in hand. No wonder he used that option, but he killed his opponent's creature, which luckily it was transformed down, so there was a 4/4, so he was able to kill it, and then he was able to effectively draw 2 more cards and possibly get what he needs. Whereas Bant is just basically having to continually rebuild his board, and he's doing a pretty good job. So far, Tireless Tracker and Duskwatch Recruiter. End of turn, Thermal Alchemist, 1 more, so Bant is down to 15. And like I said, Izzet being at 11 really isn't that big a deal right now, because ever since that 5 damage hit, Bant hasn't been able to do any damage. And another Collective Defiance. And he went all out, all 3. And Bant concedes. See, would have bounced everything except for that. That would have been 7 damage, 11 damage to the face, 12 untap, 13. Yeah, to be fair, Izzet probably had that game in the bag right then and there. Not very often that you see one of these cards actually using all of their abilities, though. So let's go to game 2. That was a pretty good run for Izzet. Decent run for Bant. You know, it could have been better, but it could have been a whole lot worse. Okay, that was a long sideboard. I'm wondering which side was sideboarding. But both of them have a turn 2 play. Turn 2 Lamholt Pacifist, turn 2 Thermal Alchemist. And I have to say, something like a Dramoka's Command here would be amazing, because then he'd be able to turn his Pacifist into a 4-4, kill the Thermal Alchemist, and attack in for 4 damage. But, you know, that's kind of just the Christmas Dreamland scenario. You know, the perfect option in this situation. But at best, he's going to have 4 copies in his deck, so, you know, 1 in 15 chance every time you draw a card, effectively, until, you know, you whittle down your deck some. So unfortunately, no plays on turn 3, but that does turn his Pacifist into the Butcher, so now it can attack. And there's Fevered Visions, a very good accompanying card for this combo, because it can easily do that 2 damage, because it's not as easy as you think to get down to, let's see, 4 or more, draw cards, so you have to be at 2 cards, so that when you draw the card from Fevered Visions, you don't take the 2. And it isn't actually that easy outside of, you know, certain decks, you know, the very fast aggressive decks, to get down to that hand size very quickly. So 4 damage from the Butcher, Tireless Tracker on the second main phase. He's going to draw a card and take 2 damage, go down to 18. Thermal Alchemist will ping him at the end of turn as well, so he'll be at 17 at the end of his turn. And Fiery Impulse. 2 damage, so killing off the Tireless Tracker lets him ping with the Alchemist. 2 mana left over. Oh, a 3rd mana. Storm Chaser Mage. Another really good synergy. And Lightning Axe, discarding a land. So that's 5 damage to kill off the Butcher. Lets him ping with the Thermal Alchemist again. Prowesses up the Storm Chaser Mage, which can attack in for 2. And Bant will be down to 13. But what I was going to say about Storm Chaser Mage is, thanks to this deck alone, Storm Chaser Mage is having a little bit of resurgence in popularity. You know, he's not a bad card. It's just, it's not easy for him to stay alive anymore. And in this deck particularly, you know, because you're going to be playing so many instants and sorceries, he's not a bad choice, because he fits into the curve very well. He has a very good synergy with these other cards. You're drawing cards with Fevered Visions, you're pinging with Thermal Alchemist, you're playing instants and sorceries so that you can untap the Thermal Alchemist and ping again, which will prowess up the Storm Chaser Mage, and you guys know what I'm talking about. It's just really good synergies from this deck. Double Knight of the White Orchid. Now, normally these are going to be really, really good cards against almost any deck that you're going to find, because a 2/2 First Strike is a pain in the butt to have to get through. The problem that he has here is that he's facing off against a deck that has a ton of burn spells, and 2 toughness is not hard to get rid of. And Collective Defiance, 3 damage to the face, 4 damage to a creature. Lets him ping with the Alchemist and untap. attacks in for 2 more flying. That'll take him down to 4. And let's see. 2 more damage from Fevered Visions, 1 at the end of the turn, and then untap and ping. So this is his last chance to take this match. And I have to say, not a very smooth run that from what we've been seeing. Reflector Mage. Alright. Ping in response because he's gonna bounce the Alchemist. The only problem is that, whichever creature he picks, the Alchemist can ping for 1. The Storm Chaser Mage has flying, and he has nothing that can block flying, so basically it's just a 50-50, pick one and hope that you can kill the other one. And he's dead. 2 damage from Fevered Visions, untap, ping with the Alchemist. Wow. That was really not good for the Bant deck. And again, he didn't have a terrible run. This wasn't like getting mana screwed or not getting the creatures when you need them. He had tons of creatures. He had tons of options. He could have had a few better draws, certain creatures over others. But at the same time, Izzet was very, very smooth there. And that was, effectively he was already dead at the end of his turn on turn 5. He had to ping on turn 6, but, that's basically 5 turns. Izzet had Bant dead. And, that's quite the upset, considering Bant Aggro is statistically 4 out of every 10 decks that you're going to run into in a standard tournament right now. Maybe a little less than that. I round up to make it easier. But, with that kind of popularity, you're going to have to build a deck that can stand up to it. And like I said, Izzet can do the job. It's just a matter of getting the right run out of him. And as we saw in here, 2 games in a row, Izzet ran perfectly. So, I've babbled on for far too long. That was Izzet Machinegun versus Bant Aggro. And if you liked what you saw, hit that like and subscribe button for me, and I'll see you in the next video.